supplemental oxygen and back alive, you need to do what we call rotations. I mean, you cannot just go up to the summit and back. You need to get some altitude, retreat back to base camp, get some more altitude on the second trip than before, and eventually, when they feel prepared, they will try and go all the way to the summit. There's not unlimited amount of time because the climbing season lasts until the monsoon rain comes, and that happens usually in the first days of June.
Given the reality now, is it realistic that some perhaps 400 climbers with licenses will have the time to get to the top with all these steps that you mentioned and get down before the end of the season?
It depends on each person, it depends on how fit they are, and it depends on how many chances they have.
Ryan, let me put this to you. For your team of climbers, do you feel like, the time is a little short here?
Yeah, so our climbers are using oxygen, supplemental oxygen. We feel like we have enough time from a climbing standpoint. The big challenge right now is for all the expeditions to get all the equipment up onto the mountain needed. We need to get our team of Sherpas that support, for example, our company's climbers. They're going to have to go up and down many times now in a relatively shorter period of time compared to a typical season, to be able to basically equip the mountain for our team. So that's the big challenge. And so you couple that with all the people that need to do rotations, like Angela said, and that's a lot of people on the route. And so it's going to be a bit of a dance, I think, to not all try to be moving on the same day.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, very quickly, many Americans know the book or the film Into Thin Air, about a tragic Everest climb 30 years ago, 1996. Yeah. 8 people kind of racing to the summit were caught in a storm, killed, and to this day climbers have to walk past, as I understand it, some of their bodies. Have you done that? What is that like?
Yeah, I think there is a bit of a misconception. It gets a little dramatized. It's true that there's a few of the people in that story, in that real event, Scott Fisher, Rob Hall, these people still on the mountain. And in fact, if you've been on the Everest route as much as I guess I have, even first time I climbed it was this specific route was 2008. And you know where to look, you could actually see Scott Fisher. But in reality, if you don't know where to look, you wouldn't know that he's sitting on a rock. So yeah, it's a surreal experience. There's a lot of talk about it all the time. And I say it a lot and people sometimes take it the wrong way, but as a mountaineer in the Himalayas for 20 years, I think you become a little desensitized to seeing that. It's not that you're not feeling the feelings and the human aspect of that, but some of the people, sometimes their families have said, they love the mountains, they can stay there, all these choices you actually have. So, yeah, it's kind of a difficult subject matter, but it's just unfortunately part of this game we play up here.
So Ryan, today, as the coast is clear, as it were, how are you feeling?
I've been fortunate to be climbing here for a long time in the Himalayas. So what you develop is a bit of judgment and patience. Yes, I'm concerned about the timing a bit, but feeling confident that if we do have a pretty safe route through the bottom of that ice fall where the challenge was, that I feel collectively we can manage if we get good weather.
Yeah, well, we're banking on good weather, good climbing for you and your team. Ryan Waters runs the company Mountain Professionals, and he's at the Everest Base Camp. Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We've also been talking to mountaineering journalist Angela Benavides. She writes for Explorers Web. Angela, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me there. A pleasure.
You're listening to Here and Now.
If you visit this station's website, you can stay on top of local elections, find out about your town's culinary scene, maybe even nod your head to a new Tiny Desk performance. And it's listener donations that help make everything you watch, read, and hear from this station happen. I'm Martinez. Donate your unwanted vehicle to this station, and the next time you're scrolling through stories in the coffee shop, you can blurt out, "Hey, my car did that," to the surprise of everyone sitting around you. Here's how.
Go to radioiq.org and click the vehicle donation banner at the top of the page.
On the next Fresh Air, Flea. After recording many albums with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Flea has his first solo album. We'll talk about being afraid to go home when he was young, how the Chili Peppers tried to be the wildest band ever during the punk rock era, and how he's changed. Join us.
That's Fresh Air, Monday through Thursday at 2 p.m. on Radio IQ.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and your NPR station, and from MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink software for technical computing and model-based design. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And Road Scholar, a nonprofit educational travel provider for adults offering programs in more than 100 countries and online. Learn more at roadscholar.org/learning.
It's Here and Now. Sarah Kovac was born with a rare birth defect that left her arms and hands underdeveloped. So she does most daily tasks with her feet, including driving, making coffee, and changing her kids' diapers. An author and advocate for people with disabilities, Sarah notes that while you may consider yourself able-bodied today, changes to vision, hearing, mobility, and strength come for all of us, whether from aging or accidents or even a temporary condition like pregnancy. So she's teamed up with Consumer Reports to launch a new advice section on adaptive living, aging, and accessibility. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So first, do you mind telling us about your own experience with disability?
Absolutely. I was born with a disability that's very rare. It's called arthrogryposis, and it affects everybody differently. But in my case, it means I can't really use my hands and arms. And so at about age 2, I started to figure out, oh, hey, my toes work much better. So I started picking up crayons and, my spoon at the table with my toes. And luckily, my parents didn't intervene. They just kind of let me do my own thing. And so I went on to learn how to do everything that you have to do in order to live independently. I lived by myself for a while. And now I live in a home with my husband and 3 kids and have a career. So I've achieved everything that I've wanted to achieve. I've just had to do it very differently than the average person.
And you are credited with having coined the term ability drift. Explain to us what you mean with this new language and how you're trying to underscore that changes in abilities will come for all of us, no matter how able-bodied we may feel today.
Yeah, it's not a binary. And we need to be able to talk about your changes in needs as you have arthritis and you need an automatic can opener. It's like a disability purgatory. You don't consider yourself disabled, but you can acknowledge that there are things that are getting harder for you and you need to adapt. And that's where the disability community really shines, because we've been spending our lifetimes finding ways to get around the ability drift that a lot of people are experiencing. And it's not always with age. Sometimes you're scoping out the wheelchair access in a building because you have a baby and you're using a stroller and you can't use the stairs. It can happen to anybody. It does happen to everybody. Nobody really likes to think about it, but it's important that we create spaces where the disabled community and aging communities can show their solutions and show the rest of us what we can do when we encounter something like that.
Well, you're doing just that with this collaboration with Consumer Reports. Your project is about helping people who have disabilities share their expertise with the ordinary consumer. So give us some examples of who are the journalists you're working with and what are some of the consumer items that they're teaching people how to use.
It was a great window for me to bring in a lot of journalists who have disabilities and folks who are aging, and maybe there was one who uses a walker, so we got her to write about walkers. There's a good friend of mine who's a journalist that is an amputee, and she wrote about kitchen tools that are easy to use with one hand. And it's funny because I don't use any hands, but I still found value in what she wrote. Several of the products that she talked about, I actually bought for myself to use with my feet. And that's a perfect example of a person may be using a product for a very specific reason, but it can apply to a whole lot more situations than just that. But some of my favorite work that we did, and by the way, it's all at cr.org/accessibility, but we brought in a blind journalist to talk about how to adapt your home if you're losing your vision, or for a parent who's losing their vision. And he has these amazing tips and tricks and hacks that he's used around his house to help him get around better. We brought in the mother of a deaf child to talk about all the ways that she's adapting her home. So if you're starting to lose your hearing, here are some things that you can do. So this is just, it's wisdom that you cannot get anywhere else.
So let me ask, Sarah, people have written about and advocated for better access for the disabled for years, for decades even, dating back to before the American with Disabilities Act. What is unique about your approach?
The disabled community is used to being spoken at. We will have well-meaning people who might be doctors or therapists who are amazing and incredible and needed, but they haven't lived the life. And so I have people come to me fairly often on social media and say, my kid is having issues because they have a disability in their arms. What do I do? I'm the person. I'm the one who knows the answer to that question better than anybody else. And so, but it's been hard to pass the microphone to the people who are the actual experts because the industry hasn't really viewed it that way. So I think it's changing. The work I'm doing here, I also did at USA Today before I came here. So I think the winds are changing, and I'm very glad to see that we're actually reaching out to the real experts when it comes to living life in this way.
Sarah Kovac is a journalist and accessibility advocate who's teamed up with Consumer Reports to create a new advice section written by people with disabilities and directed at all of us. It's called Adaptive Living, Aging, and Accessibility. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Here and Now is a production of NPR and WBUR. I'm Indira Lakshmanan in Boston.
And I'm Scott Tong in Washington, D.C. You're listening to Here and Now.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and Landmark College in Putney, Vermont, offering summer programs for high schoolers that focus on building executive function and transition to college skills. Landmark.edu/summer.
Radio IQ and WVTF Music are in the process of upgrading our digital donation systems. So the online donation form on our website and mobile app will be temporarily paused starting on April 1st. If you want to become a member or make a donation during this period, please call our business offices at 1-800-856-8900 and select option 1. Thank you for listening and supporting public radio across Virginia.
I'm Morning Edition host Jeff Bossert, inviting you to check out Virginia On Demand, a weekday podcast from Radio IQ, which features the news and featured stories from our newsroom and contributors. Subscribe to Virginia On Demand wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Radio IQ on WVTF Roanoke, WRIQ Charles City Richmond, WVTU Charlottesville, WVTW Charlottesville, WVTR Marion, WISE FM Wise, WQIQ Spotsylvania, WIUR Lexington, WEHC Emory, HD3 of WURV Richmond, and on 92.5 Richmond and 94.9 Fredericksburg. Radio IQ, a listener-supported community service of Virginia Tech, on your smart speaker and online at radioiq.org.
Fresh Air with Terry Gross is underwritten by the Davis H. Elliott Company, providing energy delivery services to utility and...
Invite all who so desire to stand for a moment of silence and to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon and welcome to our meeting for April the 28th, 2026. Regular meetings are held on the second and fourth Tuesday at 2 p.m. Public hearings are held at 6 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Deviations from this schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV, Channel 3, and will be rebroadcast on Friday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday at 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Board of Supervisor meetings can also be viewed online through Roanoke County's website at www.roanokecountyva.gov. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend Board of Supervisors meetings should contact the clerk to the board at 540-772-2005 at least 48 hours in advance. Please turn all cell phones off and place them on silent. Opening ceremonies. Roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Here.
Mrs. Hooker.
Here.
Mr. Nord.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Here. B, request to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda items. Are there any requests to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda, fellow board members?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Kaywood?
No changes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Lubeck?
No changes.
Item C, briefing. Briefing to discuss the Board of Supervisors, the Roanoke County Public Schools proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 budget. Susan Peterson, Director of Finance for Roanoke County Public Schools. Ms. Peterson?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Roanoke County Public Schools fiscal year 2026-2027 annual budget adopted by our school board March 31, 2026, and presented today for your consideration as part of the county's budget process. Over the past several months, the school board engaged in a transparent process through public work sessions and a public hearing to develop a budget that aligns available resources with operational needs while maintaining long-term financial sustainability. The total budget adopted for 2026-2027 is $301 million, an increase of approximately $13.7 million from the prior year. This budget is focused on maintaining core services while making targeted investments to address increased student needs, particularly in special education and behavioral support. The increase is largely driven by state funding, while growth in local funding is limited. In total, the change reflects approximately $13 million from the Commonwealth and a net $725,000 from the county. To better understand this budget, it is helpful to distinguish between how funding is calculated and what it costs to operate an award-winning school division. Roanoke County Public Schools is ranked among the top 10 school divisions in Virginia. The divisions ranked above us are largely located in higher-funded Northern Virginia markets and represent unique size outliers. Maintaining this level of performance requires continued investment. The standards of quality establish the minimum level of educational services required by the Commonwealth. In practice, divisions must operate above those minimums, as the model does not fully account for unfunded mandates, geographic constraints, and increasing academic, behavioral, and mental health needs of our students. Average daily membership, or ADM, is used to distribute funding across divisions. However, ADM is an average data point, not a full representation of total students or the cost to serve them. It excludes certain populations, including preschool and other high-needs students. While the preliminary March 2026 ADM is 13,052.71, the total in current enrollment is 13,574. More importantly, neither ADM nor enrollment directly determines the cost of operating a school division. Many costs are fixed or driven by legal and regulatory requirements that do not decline in proportion to enrollment. For example, when a student enters the division with a high-intensity individualized education program, we are required legally to provide the necessary services and supports, including one-on-one support if needed, regardless of our budget. This also applies to facility decisions. While enrollment has declined modestly, that decline has been distributed across the division rather than concentrated in any one school or any one grade. As a result, we do not have a facility that is underutilized in any way that would support a closure without creating inefficiencies elsewhere. Our system is built to serve the entire county, and many costs such as staffing, transportation, and facilities do not scale directly with enrollment. Closing a school would shift most costs rather than eliminate them. Now, let's turn towards how these funding resources are allocated in the budget for appropriation. While the school board adopts and manages our budget by fund, you, the Board of Supervisors, adopt our budget ordinance by functional category. It is important to understand that personnel costs are spread throughout all categories and represent 76% of our total budget. The budget is broken down as follows by functional category. The largest investment is in instruction at $165.4 million, followed by non-categorical costs, including health insurance, dental insurance, risk management, and other post-employment benefits at a total $41.8 million. Operations and maintenance at $22.9 million. Debt and transfers at $19.7 million. Technology at $16.5 million. Pupil transportation at $10.7 million. Administration and student services at $9.6 million. School food services at $8.7 million. And a contingency reserve of $4.4 million. This budget reflects a disciplined prioritization process. It includes a 4.5% total compensation increase and passes through only a 10% increase in employee health insurance premiums to our employees in an effort to be competitive with our neighbors. The division is absorbing more than 22% of the total increase in our insurance costs, while continued targeted investments in special education, counseling, and instructional supports, and managing inflationary pressures across operations. To achieve a balanced budget, the school board made difficult decisions, including deferring scheduled bus replacements, with 53 buses currently in the fleet beyond their 15-year replacement cycle, as well as deferring capital maintenance program contributions, required textbook adoption contributions, and certain technology investments. Other priority items were delayed as well. This budget before you reflects the costs of maintaining required services in a higher cost and increasingly complex environment. Changes in enrollment and funding formulas affect how these costs are distributed, but they do not reduce the underlying obligation to provide these services. Continued stable local support is essential to sustaining those services and maintaining the quality of education in our community that our community expects for every student in every school and in every classroom to be opportunity ready. We value our ongoing relationship with the Board of Supervisors and appreciate your continued support. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we can take any questions that you may have.
Do any of my fellow board members wish to comment?
Madam Chair, can I add one comment before you get into
Absolutely.
the questions? So I was standing here realizing that, of course, Ms. Peterson handles our money, so I realized Dr. Soltis and I look like we're providing security this afternoon. But really, we're just here to support, and we thank her for all her hard work in developing the budget. This is continuing to be a challenging year, including on the state level. You know, we still don't have a state budget yet, so I'm sure we'll be back as all that gets rectified. But she and Dr. Soltis, of course, as the incoming superintendent, played an integral role in trying to put this together. But I just wanted to personally express my thank you to all of you on the Board of Supervisors. This is truly a group effort, a partnership, and you guys provide the financial support to do what we do, are able to accomplish in Roanoke County Public Schools. So we do appreciate your continued support of the citizens and families of Roanoke County.
Thank you. Shame. Well, Ms. Peterson, all I can say is you have two great security guards. So, David, would you like to?
No, I'll let others.
Okay.
Circle back to me later.
So just a couple of quick comments. I appreciate the hard work of prioritizing budgets, and we do it every year too, and it doesn't seem to get easier. And so I share that pain and that hardship. I heard some rumors, and I don't know if others on the board have heard anything different or similar, that some are saying we may get a budget by June from the state. We just heard today that they were hopeful for it to be in July. There you go.
By July 1.
And I don't know how we fill, that gap, how that really works functionally for the flow of funds, but we all are appreciative of the efforts in these difficult times for getting a budget delivered. I just had a couple of quick comments, and it looks like there is still a substantial increase in budget from the prior year. And when I look at our page 9 of our staff report, it looked like it was about 13.7 million. Is that about right, Susan?
That is correct.
And so there is a continued increase, and so we're thankful for that because it is an important work, and because the students do need the services to continue to be successful, and we agree with that. I wanted to ask another question too about health insurance, and I know that that's been an ongoing challenge to keep up with that, so that you're giving a raise, but is it all going to be eaten up by an increase in insurance? And I know that we have struggled with the same thing. If I read it correctly on page 10 of our staff report, it says that it was just shy of $500,000 increase. Is that accurate? About $500,000 increase in health insurance.
And the health insurance fund?
Yes, I believe that's what I saw it from.
There's a $4.6 million increase in the health insurance fund.
4.6 million increase?
In the health insurance fund.
Increase.
That's our reserves to pay out the claims.
Okay.
That would be the total claims coming in and what we're paying out.
Okay. I'm just wondering how that, I don't know if staff can answer this quickly or not, and if not, then please, I defer for later. But I think, is it similar for us that we have a substantial increase like that? Mr. Administrator, do we know that off the top of our head?
We do. I will let these fine folks in the back give you the exact answers. It was smaller than the schools, but still significant. So 13.5% for us overall cost year over year.
That, an increase. So whether or it was a substantial increase is what I'm getting to. So we feel a lot of the same pain is my point. And we definitely want our schools, they are, there's so much to be proud of with what the schools are accomplishing. And I think we're really taking the lead in some of the innovative ways for teaching our children. The CTE is just, I think, a role model for other districts. So we appreciate what you are doing. And I just want to say personally that we understand the difficulties. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you again when we have a budget from the state. And I know this is a conservative budget. Hopefully the Senate version will be a little bit stronger when they finish debating data centers and that large influx that they'd like to see come, but that yet remains to be seen. 16% increase is what I calculated on your health insurance. Ours was 13%, I believe, as someone just mentioned. It should be nice if we both could collaborate on that in the future years, because it makes no sense if we can get some power of leveraging to reduce and rein in the cost increases. And secondly, on the ADM, I heard a number, but that's not the number that I remember. So is this budget 12,905 or 12,925 for ADM?
The budget is 12,905. What I shared with you
was the current.
The March 26th.
Yeah, okay.
Current year ADM is expected to be.
Well, that number in March will be the one they base funding on for this budget? And that was, but then later on that changes in what, September, October? Okay, I got you. Sure, it'd be nice if things were on a January to December fiscal year.
And we're guessing, so we budgeted conservatively at 12,800.
I don't blame you. So have y'all ever thought about any ways to try to get that number up by doing some innovative things? With the CTE coming along, is there any way you can consider students that aren't in public school and get some credit for that ADM to boost up future funding?
Yeah.
I mean, I can give you a dissertation on innovation.
Well, don't do that. We don't need a long dissertation. I've just been brainstorming.
Right, you mentioned, I mean, currently, because, we have a full array of classes, any student could actually attend 100% online. We don't recommend that. We prefer in-person instruction. We think that's best for most students.
Sure.
But for the ones who would like to do, all online, we actually have a full course load of courses where a student, could do that. And so you can still do that and still instruct at home, for example, in the manner of your choosing. But those are some of the things that we do. But we just gave a presentation yesterday at our state superintendent's conference about innovation in Roanoke County Public Schools. And we feel like we're leading the way. We're one of 26 school divisions in the country invited to participate in the Carnegie Institute and their Future of High School Network. And so we're recognized nationwide for innovation.
Good. I was just thinking, if someone was in a private school here in Roanoke County and their parents were Roanoke County taxpayers, and if they were to come to the CTE school, if there's positions available or slots available, could we get some credit for that ADM if they took a course or two there? That's where I'm going with this.
We can't do part-time enrollment, but welcome any students to come and enroll with us, and happy to invite them in.
That's something we probably ought to try to see some legislation to allow that if you want to endorse that, because to me, that's how you stop the reduction in your ADM. And that's just something that I've been thinking about, and I hadn't had a chance to ask that, so I thought I'd just do that today. Lastly, I just want to thank you in these difficult times for helping Roanoke County with the transfer this year, because we put it to good use to give our our employees a good pay raise of 3%. So working together, we can collaborate and do many things, and so we thank you for that. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I too agree. Thank you very much for the categories and laying that out. It has been a little easier for me to read and understand the budget, other than the non-categorical, but you give good information on where that's located. I'm looking at the capital improvement plan, and so I'm looking at 2028, and it looks like you've got renovate Arnold R. Burton for an alternative education public day school. So pretty much you want to keep that property? Is that what I'm hearing and seeing?
Well, we did the feasibility study on potentially turning it into an alternative school because we have a growing need, especially at the younger grade levels. But we're still weighing we're still going to need capital in order for that to happen, which we believe would also cut down on CSA funds because we would have more resources to keep some kids within the division, which also makes it easier for them to come back.
Okay. So the capital projects that you have delineated, I mean, they change, and we understand that. So if we're looking at today, this is your most latest thinking from the administration and the school board. Northside Middle, Glenver Elementary, Hidden Valley Middle, Burlington Elementary, so on and so forth.
And there's some things still in play. I'll give you an example of Burlington Elementary. I mean, when we did the CIP in 2019, we placed Burlington there from an instructional standpoint, but that school was originally built back in the 1930s.
Okay.
There's been some additions and so forth, and so that's something that, just by way of example, we're going to continue to have to look at to see, does that need to be moved up due to some acute issues that might be happening.
Yeah. So I don't want to create a controversy, but I see a lot of elementary and the middle schools right here too. Have you ever considered building elementary K through 8 to combine the structures and save on transportation? I see that from architectural groups that do a lot of design nationwide in order to save on cost and try to combine services as a way of saving. I'm not trying to promote closing this or that. I'm just saying, we've got all this coming up. Would it be considered?
There's a whole body of research on that topic in terms of grade configurations across the country and what's efficient, what works best instructionally, what works best for developmental stage of the student served. So your point's a good one in terms of always considering, options like that. But there's a lot of research that would inform, that kind of decision.
Okay. All right. Very good.
I just want to say something on CSA. When we get a budget, that budget item that's supposed to give some fungibility to the CISNA to allow funds to be used for public programs like you're talking about might help. But, I wouldn't go to the bank on that till we see if it still survives the budget.
Right.
So if, I'm watching it, but I put it in suspense till June.
And I do appreciate you guys advocating with us for that, or us advocating with you, whichever way you want to have it.
Thank you.
So just one more quick comment, because I certainly applaud looking at creative ways to look at old buildings on how we can best utilize and meet current needs, and especially with the rising cost of private day school. I think that the renovation of Burton really makes a lot of sense. But I'm curious, how long would it take for the planning, the architectural work, because while it is scheduled for 28, I wonder if that would really even be reasonable for getting all the planning and pre-construction work completed. And if there were a time there that was a natural gap, because I personally feel that our debt load is too high right now. And I know there's other people with different opinions, but I do think it's making an increasing impact on our budget and how we handle that and the amount of money that we're charging our citizens, quite frankly. And so if there was a pause, what would that look like? Because I believe it might, I don't know that it would be, that would be in shape to build or to renovate by 28, and maybe I'm wrong. But I think that if we had a little more time, it might sink better, in my opinion. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Anybody else?
Like everyone else, I want to congratulate you and the school board with what you've accomplished. For purposes of the citizens watching, quite honestly, this is just the first step. We have to wait and see what the General Assembly does, and then we have to adopt an ordinance appropriating the funds. And again, public education is the largest component of Roanoke County's budget, and I think from that perspective, it is clearly the most important. I look at what some of our neighbors are going through, and I think we're doing pretty good. We're not perfect, but we're doing pretty good. And seeing some of the consternation in other jurisdictions neighboring us, if we can continue to go forward in a cooperative manner, I think we'll be in good shape. But again, this is just the beginning. I think you all know that. And we'll see how things play out, hopefully over the next month. But this is a good start. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any? Well, I will take my turn. I just want to thank you all for all the hard work on working with us during the budget, because I know this has been a struggle for everybody, and especially Ms. Peterson trying to make her budget work with, as well as making our budget work, and presenting everything back to the school board and making all of it work for all of us. So thank you very much. And unless y'all have anything else to say, I think we're good. Y'all good? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Item D, new business. Number 1, resolution approving an interim agreement between Roanoke County and G&H Contracting regarding pre-construction services for the Hollins Fire Station. Doug Blunt, Deputy County Administrator. Mr. Blunt.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. In the fall of 2025, the county received an unsolicited conceptual phase proposal from G&H Contracting Incorporated for the redevelopment of the Hollins Fire Station located at 7401 Barrons Road. In October, the county accepted the unsolicited proposal for review and then solicited competing proposals pursuant to the board's adopted guidelines under the Public-Private Education Facilities and Infrastructure Act of 2002, which is often referred to as the PPEA. The solicitation produced no competing proposals. Before entering into a comprehensive or interim agreement, the county had to meet the statutory requirement of the PPEA process to involve the public by holding a public hearing on proposals received no less than 30 days prior to entering into agreement. The public hearing was held on February 24th, 2026. The purpose of this resolution is to request approval of an interim agreement between Roanoke County and G&H Contracting for the pre-construction services for the Hollins Fire Station, which includes, among other services, site and building plan designs, cost estimation, value engineering, and constructability review. If the board approves this staff-recommended resolution, the county will pay G&H Contracting $221,275 for the agreed-upon pre-construction services. This agreement includes a preliminary guaranteed maximum price shown as Exhibit 3 of approximately $4.5 million. This GMP includes anticipated costs to redevelop the building, construction administration fees, a cost escalation contingency, and funds for fire station equipment. Based on the design schedule as shown in Exhibit 5 of the agreement, it is anticipated that the design and construction documents be completed in late summer of 2026, with a request to the Board of Supervisors to approve a comprehensive agreement for construction in early fall of 2026. Construction is expected to take approximately 1 year. The construction schedule will be better defined once the construction documents are closer to completion. I am happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Blunt? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I move the motion, T1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item E, public hearing. Public hearing for citizen comments on the proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 operating budget and the proposed fiscal year 2027 to 2036 capital improvement program. Steve Elliott, the budget administrator. Mr. Elliott.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. This public hearing is to receive comments on the proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 operating budget and the fiscal year 2027 through 2036 capital improvement program. This is a requirement of state code and was advertised in the Roanoke Times, Roanoke Rambler, and Cardinal News on April 21st. Staff recommends conducting the public hearing to receive citizen comments on the proposed budgets.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Elliott? I'd like to open the public hearing. We appreciate all who have come today to address the board. When your name is called, please come forward and state your name and address prior to sharing your comments. Each person is permitted to speak up for up to 3 minutes. At the front of the podium is a light system that tells you how much time you have remaining. When the light changes from green to yellow, please share any concluding remarks. When the light changes from yellow to red, your time has ended. While the board desires to hear from all who desire to speak, we ask that the speakers refrain from repeating comments already made by others. The first person I have on the agenda is David Curry.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name is David Corey. I'm really not addressing the budget, I'm addressing taxes.
Can you state your address, please?
I'm sorry.
Could you state your address, please?
My address is 3419 Ashmead Drive, Southwest Roanoke.
Okay, thank you.
Imagine, if you will, that your income was based not for taxes, based not on what you actually made, but on what you could have made in an ideal situation. You would say that is unfair. That's exactly what property taxes do to us. You base what we pay you every year on what you think an ideal situation that we could make if we were to sell our home. And that you do to every year also. We work, pay taxes, own money, and manage our home, a basic human need, I might add, and you charge us rent to live there based on what we could sell the house for. I have no idea how you can justify that. Being taxed on money I did not receive is in no way defensible or moral. You raised mine and other homeowners' amounts we have to pay you by huge amounts the last 2 years. You smile and say, look how much more money we can squander. I might add that you gave yourself a raise with that ill-gotten money. The fact that, in your opinion, our property increased in value did not cost the county an extra cent. We made not 1 penny extra income from that perceived increase in value. So you received more money, and we kept less while we pay you rent on a home we bought. The amount of taxes I pay you this year on my house is more than the total house payment was in 1979 when I purchased this home. That included taxes, insurance, interest, and principal. And you have no problem with that? Well, I do, and so do many other people. To present a problem without a solution is folly. So what is the solution? As it does take money to operate the government, I suggest a user tax. This way everyone shares the burden of the squandering of our money and not just the homeowner. I already know one argument you will offer against that. Those renters actually pay that real estate tax indirectly. I beg to differ, as rent is not set on expenses of the landlord nearly as much as setting the rent on a highest level as the market will bear. Bear heavily in mind that if you eliminate the real estate tax, rent would remain the same, not go down. We both know that. The next point is, if you will trade the immoral real estate tax for a user tax. No, it's not likely, because that would take a lot of work, organization, and it is easier to just kick the can down the road and leave everything just like it is. You may ask why others are not here protesting this immoral tax. Well, I imagine the reason is so many, like many others, maybe even you, just find it easier to shrug and not cause waves. I pity those timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat and cannot stand in opposition to what is a burden to the average decent person. I realize that my standing here will produce little or no results, but at least it will let you know your view. In conclusion, I realize I can only stand here and make these statements because you allow me to do this, and I do thank you for this opportunity. I stand ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
You have a great day. I'm closing the public hearing. Item F, first reading of ordinance. Ordinance amending the Code of the County of Roanoke by amending and reenacting Chapter 2, Administration, Article 8, Disaster and Emergency Management. Doug Barber, Senior Assistant County Attorney, first reading and request for second reading. Mr. Barber.
Madam Chair, members of the board, supervisors, good afternoon. As you just said, this agenda item is proposing to add an article to Chapter 1 of the County Code. And we have the experts behind me ready to help answer questions. As required by law, the board has adopted an emergency operations plan. You adopted it in July of 2023, which includes an emergency management organizational structure with associated duties and responsibilities. However, that emergency operations plan is not activated until there is an official declaration of a state of emergency. And until that official declaration, the organizational structure and duties detailed in that plan are not explicitly in place. By adding this proposed article called the Disaster and Emergency Management Article to Chapter 2 of the County Code, the organizational structure and duties articulated in the Emergency Operations Plan will be permanently implemented. In addition, the new article will allow for planning and some emergency management actions to be taken before a state of emergency is declared, as early as when a disaster threatens. This article does enhance the county's ability to prepare for and react to emergency situations. Staff recommends that the board approve this first reading and schedule a second reading for May 12th, 2026. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and the chiefs are here to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Barber?
Mr. Barber, going back many, many, many decades, I think the history was that the governing body, the Board of Supervisors, had to get together in the case of an emergency and adopt a resolution declaring an emergency. As I understand this initiative, and I think it's requested by our friends at the state and federal government. The idea is to adopt an ordinance that allows a more timely response, particularly in situations where maybe the governing body can't get together because of a disaster, so that we don't have a delay. Am I close in terms of the history of localities responding to emergencies and disasters?
Yes, sir, absolutely. But this certainly does not take the place of board action, of course. This is simply kind of putting things in place so that right now, for example, we have structure in place, and if something happens this afternoon, there's already people in place, people know what their jobs are, they can take actions, they can start things rolling. And then even if the board can't get together, they can still start doing preliminary things. Of course, the actions by the board are indispensable, has to happen. The emergency operations plan that's thick and detailed, of course, still cannot be implemented fully without board's action or the governor's action. So I think it would be, partial yes to your answer. It does, but it certainly doesn't take a place of your action. It just kind of gets them started and gets things in place even now in the calm period before the storm.
Thank you. Here's a question, Madam Chair. So let's say the board meets once a month and it's July and we're all out of town, just having a grand summer. We decide to take some vacation. Something happened. We can't get back very quickly. Mr. Lubeck, can we not do a vote by consensus on email to allow this to kick in, or do we have to wait till we all get back in town in a week or two?
No, a vote by email would not be appropriate. However, there are certain circumstances where the board could meet fully electronically, but those procedures would have to be followed. But it could not be accomplished, a formal action by email.
It's too bad.
But
if I could just briefly inject, I think basically this codifies essentially our existing practices. Whereas you all know, when we have any type of weather or other event, Mr. Campbell is very busy and does a lot of coordination, and I think that just kind of affirms that that's the way we would like things to work. I mean, on paper, I am the county's emergency manager by title, but administratively, we assign that to, well, Dustin right now is an individual, but somebody that's appointed by the fire chief, and this just clarifies that this is our structure that we implement actually somewhat routinely for mostly weather events, large and small. It could be a wildfire or something else. So I don't think it's really intended to change the basic way in which we have gone about this for many, many years. It just puts it on paper in a way that the Commonwealth will be a little more comfortable with, because it makes it a little bit more formal than what we're doing now. But from a practice perspective, I think there would be no noticeable change to the board or to the public.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance and to schedule the second reading for May the 12th, 2026?
Madam Chairman, I move the approval of the first reading of this ordinance that's found at item F1, and we set our second reading for May 12th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Thank you. Item G, second reading of ordinances and public hearings. Ordinance approving the disposition of real estate located at 6697 Mount Chestnut Road, Roanoke, Virginia, 24018, Roanoke County Tax ID number 075.00-02-36.00-0000. Rachel Lauer, Deputy County Attorney, second reading and public hearing. Ms. Lauer.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm here today on an ordinance approving the disposition of real estate located at 6697 Mount Chestnut Road. Roanoke County, as you all know, Roanoke County owns Happy Hollow Gardens Park. As part of the acquisition of Happy Hollow Gardens, the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors acquired a parcel of land at 6697 Mount Chestnut Road in the Windsor Hills Magisterial District. The parcel is 1.0 acre in size and includes a vacant cabin, multiple outbuildings, a carport, and a gazebo. The property is not used for public purposes. The Board of Supervisors leased the property in the past, but the cabin is currently unoccupied. In an effort to dispose of the parcel, the Roanoke County staff solicited bids from the public by advertisement in February 2026. 3 bids were received. One bid stood out for a purchase price of $181,500 in cash without contingencies to a family with a history of working on the property. Staff recommends the sale to that bidder. There has been a change to the draft deed that was included at the first reading of this ordinance in your previous April meeting. I have amended the deed to a quitclaim deed, and included in your packet is a draft deed. Assuming that the board approves the ordinance, I will use a closing agency to close on this with the potential purchaser, and the bid included a proposal that the buyer pay all closing costs. So there are no costs to Roanoke County to sell this parcel of land. Assuming a sale is finalized, Roanoke County would receive approximately $181,500 from the sale. Staff recommends that you approve this ordinance, finding the property to be surplus property, authorizing the sale in an amount no less than $181,500, approve the draft quitclaim deed, and hold a public hearing for the approval of the ordinance.
Are there any questions for Ms. Lauer? Do we have anyone wanting to speak? Okay, so I'll open and close the public hearing. And is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I will move that we approve the ordinance set out under item G1 to sell this property. For all those folks who have never been up to Happy Hollow, it is a beautiful place. My wife and I were there a couple weeks ago to see the azaleas. I'm glad we're able to sell the property to someone, I think as Ms. Lauer had indicated to us previously, someone who has had some interest and had worked on the property in the past, and hopefully they'll care for the home there. So I move the approval of this item.
Is there a second?
I will second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item 2, ordinance approving the disposition of real estate located at 3319 Westmoreland Drive, Roanoke, Virginia 24018, Roanoke County Tax Parcel ID Number 077.13-05-31.00-0000, and 3323 Westmoreland Drive, Roanoke, Virginia 24018, Roanoke County Tax Parcel ID Number 077.13-05-30.00-0000. Rachel Lauer, Deputy County Attorney, second reading and public hearing. Ms. Lauer?
Again, good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. I am here today on an ordinance to approve the disposition of 2 parcels on Westmoreland Drive. The Roanoke County Board of Supervisors owns those 2 parcels. They are undeveloped and they are not used for public purposes. The parcels were originally purchased for the public purpose of facilitating an economic development project which never materialized. The parcels have remained undeveloped and are not used for public purposes. In an effort to explore disposing of the parcels, Roanoke County staff solicited bids from the public by advertisement in February 2026. No bids were received for either parcel. Roanoke County staff have proposed to transfer the 2 parcels to the Economic Development Authority of Roanoke County. This would allow the EDA's real estate broker to advertise and sell the 2 parcels on the private market. If the 2 parcels are sold, any funds received by the EDA would be returned to the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors. Again, there's only been one change to the proposed ordinance in the board packet, and that is an amendment to the draft deed to a quitclaim deed. There are no costs to Roanoke County to transfer the 2 parcels to the EDA. If the parcels are sold to the EDA on the private market, any funds would be returned to the board, and the board would need to appropriate those unknown amount of funds at a later date. Staff recommends that the board find the property to be surplus property, authorize the sale of the 2 parcels to the EDA, which, again, the Roanoke County Attorney's Office can accomplish the transfer of the sale to the EDA. We don't need a closing agent for that. And approve the quitclaim deed And again, this one also requires a public hearing.
Are there any questions for Ms. Lauer?
Yeah. Okay, so when y'all put the bid out, you put no dollar amount, correct?
We required a minimum bid of $10,000 per parcel.
Per parcel?
That's right.
All right. Last time we talked about this, I offered, why don't you vacate the center line?
And we're working on that. Staff is working on that. Nikki Mills is here today, and he is working on that proposed plat. I had him stop as of yesterday.
Okay.
And we'll transfer it to the EDA. The EDA can sign that vacation of the center line, and we can send it to the broker as one parcel. That's what I'm proposing today.
Okay. So what's the difference with us selling it again with the new vacation and redoing it versus the EDA? What advantage do we get by letting the EDA handle it?
The broker.
The broker?
The broker, yes, sir.
Okay.
It can be sold on the private market via
So
the broker
it'll-
that the EDA
Okay,
recently
so it'll
contracted
be
with.
listed instead of going through the newspaper or as a...
Staff attempting to
Okay,
sell it on the
all right. Everybody
private market
will
without.
see it a little better on the broker
Correct.
side. Okay, well, that makes sense. Okay, I understand.
Do you all have any questions? No. Do we have anyone here to speak?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I will open and close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I will move that we approve the ordinance set out under item G2 to transfer these parcels to our EDA, and I hope that our EDA has a little more success in selling the property than we've had.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, and they'll have better success listing it in the open market, so everybody will see it, and plus you vacate it. So now it's big enough that you can put a
And we're
decent
working on
house.
that,
Yeah.
right. The owner of record needs to be the one to sign that. So now that the EDA
Okay.
will accept the property,
Sounds
we need
good.
the EDA to sign that. Right.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item H, appointments. Do any board members have an appointment that has not been given to the clerk and included in the board report for agenda item H? No. Is there a motion to approve the list of appointments set forth in the board report?
Motion to approve the list of appointments.
Is there a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item I, consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by one resolution in the form or forms listed below. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion?
Not so much to remove, but just, as we said during the presentation of the school board budget, we're up in the air with respect to what the General Assembly may or may not do. I agree we should amend our meeting schedule for June, July, and August, but I guess I want to warn my colleagues that depending on what the General Assembly does or doesn't do, we may have to come back a couple times in June as opposed to only one time, unless we could claim an emergency and maybe waive a second reading for any appropriation based upon General Assembly action. Is that, do you think that
That
would
would
fit
work.
the statutory?
I do.
Okay. It just, I'm all in favor, we'll prove that, but if the General Assembly's playing chicken to June 30th, that may alter some of our plans as we go forward for our meeting schedule.
Is there a motion to adopt all matters on the consent agenda?
Move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item J, citizens' comments and communications. This time has been set aside for Roanoke County citizens to address the board on matters of interest or concern. Roanoke County citizens are defined as current residents of Roanoke County. While the board desires to hear from all who desire to speak, this agenda item is limited to a duration of 30 minutes. Each individual speaker shall be afforded 3 minutes to speak. Are there any citizens wanting to address the board that have not submitted a form?
No.
Okay. We appreciate, let's see here, I can skip on over that. Item K, reports. Am I good? Is there a motion to receive and file the reports that have been included with the agenda under item K?
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item L, closed meeting. I move to go into closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A5 of the Code of Virginia for discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. The board will discuss potential business location or expansion into 5 magisterial districts. Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. The board will now recess to the 4th floor for closed session.